guys, welcome to the Badaboom podcast, and I'm Chris.
This is Troy.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Melissa Flores on, writer of The Dead Lucky. Hey, Melissa, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? Thank you so much for having me.
Good. You know, it is crazy hot. I'm trying not to die right now, but yeah, it's exciting. You've got a great new book coming out. It's your first foray into comics, which is really exciting. So tell us a little bit about it and how you got into it, and also the inspiration.
Sure, that's a lot. You're gonna have me talking for a while.
And that's the point.
The Dead Lucky is my first debut comic. I've done backups and I've done one sheets and I've worked in comics for a while now, but this is my first creator-owned comic by myself. Very fortunate to have it, be part of the Massiveverse, which is the superhero universe that came out of Radiant Black by Kyle Higgins with Image. So this is obviously a dream come true for me. Very excited to be part of the Image family and of the Massiveverse in general. I got started essentially after I left Hasbro. I was a producer and creative development executive for Hasbro for Power Rangers for about 10 years. Not just Hasbro, Saban Brands first and then Hasbro. And throughout all that time, even though I was a writer, that wasn't my job. My job was to be a producer and to help create the best content, but not necessarily write it. It was more to guide other creatives and work within, be a suit, essentially, be a creative executive. And when I left Hasbro, I stayed friends with Kyle, who had written the Power Rangers comic books for us for Boom Studios. And as he was doing Radiant Black, he asked me if I was interested in pitching a superhero story to Image. And I, of course, was going to say yes, because who in their right mind would say no? And I came up with the concept for The Dead Lucky and having it take place in San Francisco. The book itself is about a traumatized soldier who has lost most of her platoon in a mysterious incident that she refuses to discuss that is classified. And she has come back to her home city of San Francisco to discover it has been privatized by a company called Morrow, which is basically, if Google went evil. And they are promising a lot of different things, including free healthcare and privatized security and all this great stuff, but also trying to get rid of the unwanted element of San Francisco, which can get very dicey if you lump people into those kind of groups. So it has become kind of a militarized state, and that is something that BB cannot handle. And thankfully for us, unthankfully for her, she saddled with these superpowers that she doesn't quite know how to handle, and she is going to use those to bring a mech to life called Ghost and try to take on Morrow and drive them out of her own district of Chinatown. And that is the concept of Dead Lucky. It was inspired in part by my partner, Sandra, my girlfriend, who is a former vet. I just really was fascinated by her experience and her perspectives and the perspectives of all veteran soldiers, and wanted to create a story about a soldier dealing with trauma and having to live between that world of not quite a soldier, not a civilian, and what that would mean for not only her, but the people that love her.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's just the first issue, but I already am extremely drawn into this origin story. I read the last insert kind of on the last page, and you kind of told us a little bit more about it just now, but that last insert really got to me, and it really made me think like, man, there's a lot of these things that we see in other superhero comics where they survive something and they decide they're going to use the powers or that situation to do something for good. And the way that you kind of set up the first issue and the story for it already has me drawn in and already has me hooked for what's going to happen next. And I was curious if you could tell us a little more about what or how or what exactly BB's powers kind of are, because it kind of is like, is it electrical? Is it something or is it something else completely?
It is She does have electricity-based powers. They're not just straight. She's not Thor, right? She can't just conjure electricity. What she does is that she can see and manipulate energy currents, whether that's electrical currents or energy itself, the energy we leave behind. So she sees the energy currents that are all around us and she has the power to manipulate them. And part of that involves kind of a paranormal aspect in that she sees the energy we leave behind when we leave the world. So she is also saddled with essentially being able to see and command energy ghosts, which are the ghosts of people that she's lost in her lives, most specifically her dead platoon, or the closest of her dead platoon. So you're going to see throughout the series, you're going to get to know her squad, one of which is Ghost, which is the first mech that we see. And she's got a couple of others hanging around as well. So it gives her a little bit of a leg up in the fight against Morrow, in that she is bringing these mechs to life, but she's bringing it through people, quote unquote, that she trusts and views as partners. And so when it's her and Ghost, it's not just a girl riding in her mech, it's her and her partner, Ghost, someone she has relied on, in her opinion, in her head, in battle before, a colleague and a fellow soldier.
That's awesome. For me, what I really like about, like, especially those first issues of Radiant Black was, Kyle was able to really put himself into it, especially like his childhood and stuff. So like, you talked about your partner being an inspiration. What other things from your life, your culture, that you're able to infuse into the Dead Lucky that, you're excited to share with the audience?
When I left, I was an executive for about 10 years, and then suddenly decided that I was going to finally pursue writing as a career, which was exciting, but also tremendously scary. I was exiting something that I was comfortable with and knew very well to pursue something else that maybe, a lot of people try to do, a lot of people are still trying to do. And so for me, this whole idea of who am I if I'm not a soldier? Who am I if I'm not A, B, or C? That resonated quite a lot with me. I think I put a lot of my anxiety about the shift in my life, because I put so much of my self-worth in what I do, my work. And if I don't have that work, if I'm not the girl that does Power Rangers, then what is my worth? What do I do? And I feel like a lot of that is translated in BB as well. It's like, if I'm not a soldier, if I don't have if I'm not do these things to protect people, then what good am I? What is the point of my life? So there's a lot of that in there. Physically as well, I made her biracial. I'm Mexican American, and I grew up here. I love it here. My dad came over through the desert and is now a citizen. And my mom was born in Texas and was a migrant worker's kid. And so there's a lot of my culture in there as well, in that, I'm a kid that grew up here. I think myself as very much American, but I have a culture, a Mexican culture. And Sandra's family is Chinese. And so I wanted to honor their culture as well. So she is biracial. And you're going to see little bits of culture from both of those pieces in her story. Her parents own a restaurant called the Chi Mexique, which is a Chinese Mexican American barbecue fusion restaurant, just because that's everything that we love. And it's been fun coming up with recipes for that stuff. Even the suit itself that was designed by Federico Sabatini is based on the design of a Mexican calavera. It's a sugar skull. So I really wanted to be, I don't want to say obvious is the word, but I want it to be apparent that this is a character with a cultural connection, to make that distinctive, but in a way that felt like ownable, that this is hers. It wasn't just a play at, hey, look, it's a sugar skull on a girl. It's this is her identity, or the person she's trying to be.
It shows too, in the restaurant, I was like, birria? I was like, that was an interesting mix. And I was like, I kind of want to eat that.
Yo, yeah, exactly. My girlfriend's Chinese, and I was like, what is this? I've got to ask her if she knows what this is, because it looks delicious.
It's funny. Sandra's a really good cook. And so she's actually been working on the recipes and seeing if we can actually make them and put them out. Because you're not the only people that have been like, oh my God, I would kill to try a birria bun. So there's, and like you'll see other recipes in the series as well, because her mom's the one that's coming up with all of them. It's kind of very Bob's Burgery, where every episode you kind of see like one of his burger puns. That's what we're trying to do. Every issue there's another recipe that that she comes up with.
I'm excited to look through those and see the series go on. Like what's great, and what's great about the Massiverse is, all these books kind of have their own world, even though they're connected, in this bigger universe. So what's that been like creating, BB's universe and, San Francisco, and obviously this kind of not quite dystopian yet, but it's obviously not too distant future where, everything's sort of getting privatized, but also some things that are very present, people being forced out of their homes or, little bits of like gentrification in these areas, which is something we experience here in New York too. So what was that like being able to create, her origin and really build that out, but also kind of like make it a little bit grounded?
We're very lucky. Each of the creators of the Massiverse that were put together by Kyle, we're all friends. We all worked together before on Power Rangers and other projects. And Kyle has been extremely generous in his success of putting friends and colleagues and he knows together and creating really great teams with really great attitudes. And so really there were no rules except, one, we want to all play nice with each other, right? We all live in the same universe. So we want to make sure we don't break anybody else's. And that's a big reason why you see a bunch of different cities, and each city has its own flavor. You have New Orleans, which is a little gothic and paranormal in Ryan's world. And then you have Chicago, which is Kyle's hometown. And you're seeing the very distinct city feel that it has versus San Francisco, which is very unique, very coastal, very different, and kind of a clash of different cultures when it comes to, the tech and the old school and the Castro of it all, and just all these distinct districts that come together to create this very eclectic city that is being gentrified and priced out, but also crime skyrocketing. So the idea was, when we're doing our books, let's make sure that the world we're telling, one, it all works together. So even if San Francisco has all this technology on the streets, we're not going to make it so outlandish that it looks like it comes out 100 years in the future. This is something that is only happening in San Francisco in the Massiverse, and we make that very clear. Versus, obviously, you're not going to see more robots in Chicago because they haven't been authorized there. The government has only allowed Morrow to do this in San Francisco. You're not going to see these huge crossovers between the two cities in the books because we're trying to make sure that people that enjoy the books are not going to get confused if all of a sudden we cross plots. And so we're trying to make sure everybody loves the book for what it is. And then if we, then that's what, the supermassive crossover was for, right? Then when they interact in these big world breaking events, maybe we have them in those kind of stories. And so that's kind of the intention. The great thing about it is that, one, we all get along. We all like each other. We all really enjoy telling the stories. And Kyle, is really a tremendous leader in terms of keeping everybody on the same page and pushing everybody forward. This isn't the same for all the books because he has different relationships with every creator. But when it comes to The Dead Lucky, he's the one that helped me pitch the book. He's the one that helped me develop the book. He put together the artists for me, and he has been consulting on every issue. So he's very much a part of The Dead Lucky. And Michael Busuttil edits every one of these books. So we make sure that they all exist. They all stay as different as they are. They're all meant to work together, kind of like a puzzle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you talked about how, anxious it could be to kind of jump into something, being on the executive side and now being a creative. Like, what's it like? We're so close to the release. What's it like to kind of put yourself out there, put that work out there, and be able to see the response and finally make that leap? Because it is scary. Even us with this podcast, it was a year. It was a year of talking about it and being like, hey, should we do it? No, we have to get these crazy mics in a studio. We only want it when it's perfect. We don't want people to judge us and stuff. So it is a big leap. But what's it feel like to finally get this comic out there? And I've seen you share some responses from your peers. What's it like, that other people are getting to read it and give their response?
It's surreal, honestly. I mean, it's absolutely true that you are your own worst critic. I had to know what I was doing as a writer to do my job well as a producer and as a creative executive. Like I had to have good story instincts. I had to be able to communicate with writers. I had to do all that well. Otherwise, I was going to be one of those asshole producers that ended up on like Twitter with, the creators giving the bullshit notes that they were getting. Right. I'm sorry. I don't know if I could cuss on your podcast. So
no, fine.
So I took that very seriously. And I think that that's absolutely what helped me in terms of my connections when I left, that the people that I worked with saw enough of those instincts with me that when I did left and say, hey, here's what I'm planning on doing, I was lucky enough that a few of them were like, hey, we believe in you, like Kyle. We think you can do it. And here's an opportunity to prove us right. It's been the other way. Like I have had, I think one of the most telling experiences I had that really sucked was I was in a room one time and I had a producer tell me that in the 5 years that he had known me, I had zero creative instincts. I didn't know how to write, and he didn't think I was qualified to do the job I was doing. And he actually said it much ruder than that. And I was not alone in the room. So I have heard things like that before, but the nice thing about that is I am petty enough to be like, well, screw you. I'm going to prove you wrong. And so when compliments and constructive criticism and support don't work, and I'm in one of those dark places where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing? I remember him. And I'm like, you know what? Screw this guy. I can do it. And so when confidence doesn't work, petty does. And so thankfully it's worked for me so far. I'm terrified that people aren't going to like the book. I'm terrified I'm going to make a mistake, but thankfully, I have surrounded myself with people who are better writers than me and, would not let me do that to myself. I think they're going to make sure that my book is decent, and even, not everybody has to like it, but hopefully enough people will, that it'll be successful.
Does that executive get a signed copy in the mail?
Oh,
when the book comes out?
I don't even want to think about him anymore.
I know, of course, those are
gone
terrible.
Away.
Yeah.
But I mean, that stuff does affect you. It does hurt your feelings. And like, especially when you try so hard. And it was one of those things where you try so hard to be good at your job. So to hear that from somebody and know there's absolutely nothing you can do, it is absolutely a personal vendetta against you that you cannot change their mind. Honestly, I think that helps after a while. Because you're like, you know what? It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with how this person feels about me. Just got to let it go and focus on what you can do. And that's what I've been doing, which has been good. And thankfully, I have some really amazing people and support that have told me the opposite numerous times. And thankfully, I've been able to earn a living enough to know that, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do this. I am a writer. I do have those instincts. Screw that guy. So it's been helpful.
That's great. And, as we talked about the issue, it doesn't feel like, obviously this is my first experience with your writing. It doesn't feel like a first, it feels like something that, natural. Like I'm in the world, I see the story instincts, if that makes sense. So it's great to be able to see someone make that leap and make it a career and be able to take it, because, doing those things take a lot of courage, because, your worst fear is hearing that, not just once, but a bunch of times. So we all live that. So it is great to see when someone is able to get to the other side, be able to do it and be confident in their ability to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is also one of those career paths that you're going to hear no more than you hear yes. And that's just something you have to learn to accept. I think somebody else asked me what I had for what kind of advice I would give to people trying to be writers and trying to break into the industry. And the advice I gave as an executive, a producer, and I'm still a producer, I still produce other content. And as a writer was learn to take notes and learn to listen when people are genuinely giving you criticism. And I think you can, after a while, you can tell when it's bullshit, when it's somebody that genuinely just does not like you or does not care, versus somebody who's like, well, this does not work for me because A, B, and C. And I think I run into a lot of writers that, want so badly to work, but also do not want to hear that feedback because they see it as a personal attack on their projects. And thankfully, I was an executive long enough to know the other side of it, so that when I get those comments, sometimes I still take it personally because why not? It's your baby. You work really hard on things, but enough to like not react to it as much as I could and be like, okay, let me listen to the note. What are they actually telling me? What can I do to fix it? And I think that has actually really helped me in terms of working with producers, working with people that want to hire me, because not only can I write, but I can take the notes they're giving me and produce another draft in a way that isn't a fight every single time. And I think that being able to work as a team is just as important in your career as being able to write, because you're never in this on your own. Even the Dead Lucky, Kyle consults on everything. Michael is my editor. They're going to give me story notes. And sometimes I'm going to disagree, but Kyle has been writing for a very long time. He's an Eisner nominated writer. Like if he gives me a note, it's because there is a reason, right? And so I want to hear it and I want to understand the note that he's giving me. And same with Michael. Michael's edited a bunch of books. He has incredible story instincts. So if he's going to give me a note, I want to listen to it. We have an amazing artist named French, and sometimes he gives me thoughts, and we're a team, we're a partner, right? Whatever I write, he draws. So it's a team no matter what. You're never in this on your own. You're always going to be taking notes from somebody, and you're going to become a better writer for it, and your story is going to be better for it. So that has absolutely helped me, is keeping that in mind and knowing that no matter what, even if I think I'm a genius, which I don't, the best thing I can do, the smartest thing I can do is listen to those people around me, because they will always have my best interests at heart, and they're always going to just be trying to make my story better. Once you learn how to distinguish the bad notes from the good notes, you also learn very quickly how to come up with compromises that are going to push your project forward, but also allow you to maintain part of that thing that you didn't want to lose necessarily in that note.
Yeah, and that's a skill. I always think of the Rick and Morty episode when they're on the Purge planet, and they have that guy makes Rick read the script, and he's just like, hey, it's not for me. And then the guy's like, it's a good script. You're just petty and insecure.
Yeah.
And I always, anytime I show my girlfriend like things I'm working on and stuff like that, and she gives any note, I'm like, you're petty and you're insecure. It's great.
No, it's absolutely true. Yeah. And I respect people that can take those kind of notes, because it is one of those things, especially when I was an executive, I would get people pitching me things all the time, and I couldn't take them a lot of times. But even when I did, I'm like, do you want me to tell you this is good, or do you want me to tell you to actually give you notes? Because I will, and then you'll hate me forever sometimes. So I need to know before we do this. And sometimes they were honest enough to be like, I just want to know if it's good. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you. And sometimes like, no, I want notes. I'm like, okay, here's, the 10 things that I would do differently. But it does help, especially once you get into your head, especially not the people you're pitching to, but just the people around you, your manager, your colleagues. They're just trying to help you sell something. In this industry, there's a lot of people trying to sell things, and any edge you can get in order to get that thing sold, take it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's tough to get that feedback, especially if it's bad or not bad, but just not really what you want to hear. Because everyone, like you said, you put a piece of yourself into everything you make. And speaking of things that you make, is there anything else besides the Dead Lucky that you have coming up?
Yes. I don't know if I can talk about it yet.
Hey, that's okay.
But yeah, I've got a couple other projects that I'm very excited about. I'm also working full-time as a staff writer for a very exciting project that, again, I cannot talk about because I'm under NDA. But yes, I'm very lucky. There's a couple of things that I'm really excited that are coming down the pipeline, and I'm very fortunate, I think, to be able to do those, because I think the Dead Lucky opened a lot of doors for me that might have not necessarily been open before, which is very cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. If you can't talk about it, that just means we're going to be even more excited for when they come out. And, if you haven't yet, please follow Melissa on Twitter. You'll be able to hopefully see everything that she has coming out with in the coming months. Especially, it sounds like we should stay tuned to what's happening when it comes closer to Comic-Con. Melissa, what's your Twitter handle real quick?
It is Misty_Flores on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Give Melissa a follow. Stay tuned. And you can read the first issue of the Dead Lucky August 3rd. And you can stay tuned for more comic book, podcast, news, whatever you would like to kind of hear us talk about. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. We have a new YouTube channel that is now out. So you can get in those comments, tell us what you think about the Dead Lucky or anything else really that is going on comic book wise. Let us know if there's something that you'd like to hear us talk about, but more importantly, tell us what you like about the Dead Lucky. You got Melissa's Twitter handle, so make sure you tell her how great it is, because we loved it, drawn into that first issue, and I'm already excited for issues 2 and 3 to keep coming out. But until then, bada boom.
Bada boom.